Welcome back to Investing Talk, everybody. Ready for another exciting episode? Today, we're going to be looking at Liberty Energy,
Oh, yeah.
ticker symbol LBRT.
Definitely one to watch.
They're making some serious waves in the oil field services sector and their stock performance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's just say it's got people talking. So we're
Yeah.
going to break it all down for you.
Absolutely.
Figure out if this company's the real deal or just a flash in the pan.
It's a fascinating case, really.
Oh, yeah.
On the surface, Liberty Energy's stock is up a pretty impressive 27% over the last 3 months.
Wow.
And they're currently sitting at $22.63 a share.
Sounds like smooth sailing.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah.
But when you dig into their recent financials, a different story starts to emerge.
Okay, so spill the tea. What's going on in those reports?
Well, their fourth quarter and full year 2024 results are kind of like a mixed bag. The good news is they beat earnings per share predictions for Q4.
Okay, not bad.
They hit 31 cents.
All right, here it comes.
Their revenue for the quarter dipped 12% year over year.
No.
And even more when you compare it to the previous quarter, a whole 17% drop.
So not exactly the upward trend we were seeing with the stock price, huh?
Not quite.
Now, for our listeners who maybe aren't as familiar with the oil field services world, can you kind of connect those revenue dips to the bigger picture for us?
Of course. So basically, the whole sector is facing some really strong headwinds right now.
What kind of headwinds are we talking?
Well, you've got the global economy being all over the place.
Right, never a good sign.
Which always messes with demand. And then on top of that, you've got shrinking profit margins across the board.
So it's not just Liberty Energy feeling the squeeze, it's the whole industry.
Exactly. It's a tough environment out there.
But from what I'm hearing, it sounds like Liberty Energy is doing some pretty interesting things to try and stand out from the crowd. Am I right?
You are indeed. They're definitely not just sitting back and taking it.
You mentioned something called Digitechnologies earlier. What is that all about?
Ah, yes. Digitechnologies. That's Liberty Energy's fancy term for their suite of digital solutions.
Okay, so like what? Apps? Websites?
Think more along the lines of cutting-edge sensors, real-time data analytics automation.
Fancy.
All designed to make their operations way more efficient and help them make smarter decisions out there in the oil field.
So like a super-powered control center for all their operations.
That's a great way to put it.
So is this part of what's helping them maintain those super high fleet utilization rates? I think you said they were over 90%.
Spot on. High utilization rates like that tell you their equipment is constantly in use, which usually means stronger profitability.
Makes sense. Especially given the current state of the industry. That's pretty impressive.
For sure. They're definitely doing something right.
Okay, so we've got high utilization rates, cutting-edge tech, and they're moving into natural gas services, which seems like a pretty savvy move considering how important natural gas is becoming in power generation.
Definitely seeing a lot of potential there.
And let's not forget, they just gave their quarterly cash dividend a 14% boost.
Showing their investors some love.
Exactly. It's like they're saying, hey, we're committed to making sure you get a return on your investment.
Solid message to send.
So far, it sounds like Liberty Energy is ticking all the right boxes.
But
There's always a but.
you mentioned there might be an elephant in the room.
Yeah. Despite all the positive signs, some analysts are actually predicting that Liberty Energy's stock price could drop in the coming weeks.
Really? Why is that? Are they just not seeing the same potential we're talking about here?
Well, one firm, RBC Capital, even lowered their price target to $24.
So they're not quite as bullish as everyone else.
It seems like they're taking a more cautious approach, probably factoring in all the market volatility and the challenges that come with being in the oil field services industry.
So for our listeners out there who are thinking, should I buy LBRT or not? What would you say? I mean, we've laid out the good, the bad, and the uncertain. What's the bottom line? Honestly, it all comes down to this Liberty Energy definitely has a lot of potential, especially with all their strategic moves and their focus on innovation.
Right.
But you absolutely cannot ignore the potential risks.
Like what?
The market being all over the place and the challenges facing the whole oil field services industry.
Makes sense.
It's about weighing those potential rewards against the risks and deciding if Liberty Energy is the right fit for your own personal investment strategy.
Great point. Now, before we move on, I just want to remind everyone to check out the show notes for links to all the research we've been talking about
Lots of good stuff in there.
and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming episodes.
We've got some great stuff planned.
Now, let's dive into some of the technical indicators surrounding Liberty Energy.
Let's get technical. All right, so let's take a closer look at some technical indicators. These can give us some more insight into Liberty Energy's stock trajectory.
Okay, so for those of us who aren't exactly technical analysis whizzes, can you kind of break down what these indicators are and why they're so important?
You got it. Think of technical indicators like signposts on a financial map.
Okay.
They help us spot potential trends and patterns in a stock's price movements, which can be super helpful when you're making investment decisions.
Gotcha. So what are these signposts telling us about Liberty Energy?
Well, one key indicator is the moving average,
Mm-hmm.
which basically smooths out price data over a certain period of time,
Right.
helps us see the overall trend more clearly.
Right.
And right now, Liberty Energy is actually trading above its 5-day, 20-day, 50-day, and even its 200-day moving averages.
Wow, that's a lot of averages.
It is, and that's usually a really good sign. It suggests the stock has some serious upward momentum.
So based on those moving averages, it sounds like things are looking pretty good for Liberty Energy.
In the long term, yeah. But remember those mixed signals I mentioned earlier?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
You said there were some things giving you pause.
Exactly. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. While the longer-term moving averages are looking positive, some of the short-term ones, like the 10-day and 20-day, are actually flashing sell signals.
Interesting. So some investors are feeling a little bearish about the stock in the short term.
It seems that way.
So we've got these conflicting signals from the moving averages. Are there any other technical indicators we should be paying attention to?
Definitely. Another helpful tool is something called the Relative Strength Index, or RSI.
Okay, I've heard of that one.
It basically measures how much the price has been changing recently to figure out if the stock is overbought or oversold.
Gotcha. So what's Liberty Energy's RSI looking like?
Their 14-day RSI is currently sitting at 52.02.
Okay, and what does that tell us?
It's pretty much neutral territory. It means the stock isn't showing signs of being either overbought or oversold in the short term.
So the RSI isn't really giving us a clear direction either way.
Nope. Not yet, at least.
What about momentum indicators? What are those telling us?
One I like to look at is the stochastic percent K.
Okay, and what does that one measure?
It compares the stock's closing price to its price range over a specific period.
So like how much it's moved up or down recently?
Exactly. And Liberty Energy's 14-day stochastic percent K is currently at 84.18%.
Okay, that seems kind of high.
It does, and it suggests that the stock might be getting close to overbought territory.
Overbought. So does that mean there's a chance the price could drop soon?
It's definitely a possibility. Now, it's not a guarantee or anything,
Right.
but it's something to keep in mind. It basically means the stock has been climbing pretty rapidly lately,
Uh-huh.
and it might be due for a correction.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're a big fan of the SCD oscillator.
Ah, yes. The MACD never leaves home without it.
What's that one telling us about Liberty Energy?
The MECD is a trend-following momentum indicator that basically shows us the relationship between two moving averages of prices.
So kind of a comparison to different time frames.
You got it. And for Liberty Energy, the 14-day MCD is positive at 1.72.
Positive. So that's a good sign, right?
Yep. It reinforces that bullish sentiment we saw with the longer-term moving averages.
So it sounds like we're seeing a bit of a tug-of-war here. Some indicators are pointing towards continued growth for Liberty Energy,
Right.
while others are hinting that a pullback could be on the horizon. What's an investor supposed to make of all this conflicting information?
It's a great reminder that technical indicators are just one piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
You got to consider them alongside the company's fundamentals,
Right.
their recent performance, and the overall industry outlook.
So it's not about relying solely on technical analysis,
Definitely not.
but rather using it as one tool among many to help inform our investment decisions.
100%.
Speaking of the bigger picture, we haven't really talked about Liberty Energy's competition. They're not exactly operating in a vacuum, right?
Oh, absolutely not. The oilfield services industry is a pretty competitive space.
With some big players out there.
You've got giants like Schlumberger and Halliburton all battling for market share.
So how does Liberty Energy stack up against these behemoths?
Well, in terms of market capitalization and revenue, they're definitely smaller,
Okay.
but that can actually be an advantage in a way.
How so?
They're more agile and can adapt to change in market conditions much quicker than those bigger, more established companies.
So they're kind of like the scrappy underdog in this story.
I like that analogy.
They've got a lot to prove, but they're also showing a real drive to innovate and put their shareholders first.
Absolutely.
But we can't forget that even those industry giants are facing the same headwinds we talked about earlier.
Right.
It's a tough time for everyone in the sector.
No doubt about it.
So for Liberty Energy to really succeed, they need to find ways to stand out.
To differentiate themselves.
Exactly. And their technology seems like one way to do that.
For sure.
But they also need to build strong relationships with their customers
Couldn't agree more.
and offer something unique that those bigger companies can't match.
Exactly. They need to prove they bring something special to the table.
A real value proposition.
You got it.
Now, you mentioned their digitechnologies earlier. I'm curious how those stack up against what companies like Schlumberger and Halliburton are doing in the technology space.
Good question.
Are they truly on the cutting edge, or are they just playing catch-up?
From what I've seen, Liberty Energy is definitely making some serious strides in digital innovation.
Okay, good to know.
They're focused on creating a more connected and data-driven oil field,
Interesting.
which is becoming more and more important these days for both efficiency and sustainability.
So they're not just focused on making money, they're also thinking about the environment.
Yeah, it seems like they're taking a pretty proactive approach, which is always a good sign.
All right, but let's dive a little deeper into this technology.
Let's do it.
What are some specific examples of how these digitechnologies are actually being used in their operations?
One key area is, well, optimization.
Right.
They're using all sorts of fancy sensors and data analytics to monitor drilling performance in real time.
Wow, so they can see exactly what's happening down there.
Pretty much. And they can make adjustments on the fly to improve efficiency and reduce downtime.
So it's like having a digital command center for their drilling operation.
Exactly.
Pretty cool. So they're basically using technology to squeeze more value out of each well.
You got it. And in this market, that's more important than ever.
Definitely. Are there any other areas where these digitechnologies are making a difference?
Absolutely. They're also using technology to improve safety and environmental performance.
How so?
For example, they've developed systems for remote monitoring of well sites.
So they don't have to have people out there all the time.
Exactly, which can help prevent accidents and leaks.
Makes sense.
And that not only protects the environment, but it also reduces potential costs and liabilities.
So it's a win-win.
Pretty much.
It sounds like they're really pushing the boundaries of what's possible in oil field services.
Yeah, they're definitely not afraid to try new things.
And it's not just about the bottom line either.
Nope. They're clearly focused on responsible and sustainable practices, too.
Which is great to see. Now, for all our listeners out there who are thinking about investing, what does all this technological advancement actually mean for potential returns?
That's the key question, right? It's all about connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Their focus on technology can lead to a whole bunch of benefits.
Like that.
Well, think about it. Increased efficiency means lower costs, which obviously boosts profitability.
Right.
Enhanced safety and environmental performance reduces risks and potential fines.
Makes sense.
And by being a leader in innovation, they're more likely to attract and keep top talent in customers.
Which further drives growth.
Exactly.
Sounds like a pretty convincing argument for why technology is such a key driver of their potential.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on.
All right, but let's shift gears for a minute and talk about another important aspect of Liberty Energy's strategy,
Okay.
their expansion into natural gas services.
Yeah, that's a big one. To really understand the context of this move, I think it's important for our listeners to have a good grasp on how the role of natural gas is evolving in the global energy landscape.
Totally agree. Natural gas is a hot topic these days.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's talking about it.
And Liberty Energy is positioned themselves to capitalize on that growing importance.
Sorry, my move.
But can you break down for us why natural gas is such a big deal right now?
Sure, natural gas is often seen as a cleaner burning alternative to coal,
Okay.
which is a major plus in today's world where sustainability is such a huge concern.
Definitely.
It's also abundant in many parts of the world, including the United States, making it a strategically important resource.
But I know natural gas has its critics too.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Some people argue that it's still a fossil fuel that contributes to climate change,
True.
and that the methods used to extract it can be harmful to the environment.
That's also true. It's a complicated issue.
No easy answers.
Nope.
But for investors, understanding these dynamics is crucial.
Absolutely gotta know what you're getting into.
So how does Liberty Energy's expansion into natural gas services fit into all of this?
Well, the demand for natural gas is expected to keep rising in the coming years.
Why is that?
Population growth, economic development, the need for reliable energy sources.
Makes sense.
And Liberty Energy is strategically positioning themselves to capture a share of this growing market.
So they're diversifying their portfolio and tapping into a potential growth engine.
Exactly. They're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Smart move.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how this part of their business develops and how it affects their overall performance.
Definitely. A storyline worth watching.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We've talked about Liberty Energy's recent performance, the challenges they're facing, their strategic moves in technology and natural gas, the technical indicators, and the competitive landscape.
Phew. It's been a whirlwind tour of the company and the industry.
Now for the million-dollar question. What does it all mean? What's our final verdict? So after this deep dive into Liberty Energy, where do you stand? Are you ready to give them a buy, sell, or hold rating?
Oh, man. If only it were that simple.
What do you mean?
I think it's safe to say that Liberty Energy is at a crossroads right now.
How so?
Well, they're up against some pretty serious challenges,
Right, we talked about those.
both from the market as a whole and within their own industry.
But they're also showing that they're adaptable
Oh, yeah,
and willing to innovate.
for sure.
I mean, their technology investments, their expansion into natural gas, and their focus on shareholder value, those all seem like really strong points.
They definitely are. Those are all positives.
So the question is, can they execute on these strategies effectively enough to
Yeah,
actually overcome those headwinds?
that's the million-dollar question.
Okay, so no definitive rating from you today,
Not today.
but it sounds like you're leaning towards cautious optimism.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
What factors are going to determine whether Liberty Energy sinks or swims
Good question.
in the coming months and years?
I think it comes down to a few key things. First, execution.
Okay.
They absolutely have to deliver on those strategic plans.
You're talking about the natural gas expansion and the digit technologies.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
not enough to just talk the talk.
Right.
They got to
Yeah.
walk the walk.
Actions speak louder than words.
100%.
What else should investors be watching for?
Second, they got to navigate this crazy macroeconomic environment we're in.
Yeah, that's a big one.
If oil and gas prices stay low, it's going to be tough for any company in this sector.
It doesn't matter how innovative they are.
Exactly. They're at the mercy of the market to a certain degree.
Are there any other factors that could make or break their success?
Well, the competitive landscape is huge.
Right.
They need to keep finding ways to stand out from those giants.
Like Schlumberger and Halliburton.
Yep. Technology is one way,
Mm-hmm.
but building strong customer relationships
Yeah.
and offering something truly unique.
Something that sets them apart.
Exactly. That's what's going to make the difference.
So staying agile
Mm-hmm.
and responsive to customer needs.
Exactly.
That's vital in this market.
Absolutely.
What about their commitment to shareholders?
Well, that's a big one.
Is that something you're keeping an eye on?
For sure. Because at the end of the day, for investors, it all boils down to returns.
Right.
Liberty Energy needs to keep delivering value to its shareholders.
Through dividends, share buybacks, that sort of thing.
All of that. And most importantly, consistent earnings growth over time.
So they've got a lot on their plate.
They do.
But it sounds like they have the potential to come out on top.
I think so. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
They've got a strong management team.
Hmm.
They're making smart moves. And they're clearly committed to innovation and shareholder value.
But like with any investment,
There are always risks.
always.
That's why it's so important for our listeners to do their own research.
Yes. Don't just take our word for it.
Exactly.
Dig into Liberty Energy's financials. Read those analyst reports.
Mm-hmm.
And form your own informed opinion.
100%.
Weigh the potential rewards against the risks.
Yep.
And decide if Liberty Energy is the right fit for your personal investment strategy.
And your risk tolerance.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Liberty Energy.
It's been a good one.
We've covered so much today.
We have.
The recent performance, their strategic initiatives, the overall industry outlook.
Lots to think about.
Hopefully our listeners found this analysis insightful,
I hope so.
and they're now better equipped to make informed decisions about Liberty Energy.
That's the goal.
As always, we appreciate you tuning into Investing Talk.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit that subscribe button.
And leave us a comment.
We love hearing from you.
We do.
And don't forget to share this episode with anyone who might be interested in learning more about Liberty Energy.
Spread the knowledge.
Until next time, happy investing, everyone.
See ya.